They bulldozed my wife's ashes. That's not a metaphor. The HOA brought in a damn bulldozer and flattened the one place she made me promise to protect our lake cabin. I watched it crumble while the president of the HOA, Catherine Malloy, smiled like she'd just done her civic duty. The roar of that diesel engine still haunts me. I'd been on the porch, coffee steaming in my hands, when the ground began to tremble. I knew that sound, the deep mechanical growl, the splintering crack of timber giving way. I set my mug down and ran. My knees protested every step, but I ran. When I broke through the tree line, I saw a yellow bulldozer slicing straight through my cabin. Two people in crisp polo shirts stood nearby, one filming, one smirking. And right in the middle of it all was Catherine, perfectly pressed blazer hair sprayed into immobility clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Mr. Riker," she said, holding up her hand like a cop stopping traffic. "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." Behind her, the roof gave a final groan and collapsed in a plume of dust. My legs buckled. Inside that fireplace, the one I built by hand with stones Sarah and I pulled from the lake, was the urn that held her ashes. I could barely speak. "What are you doing?" I croaked. She didn't even flinch. The structure was in violation of the revised bylaws. "The property has been rezoned for community use." "Rezoned?" I whispered. "You can't just—" She handed her clipboard to her assistant and patted my arm, that fake smile plastered on her face. "We sent a notice. I checked my mail every day. I lived for the mail." She knew that. There was no notice. Only lies. Later, I found out the HOA had created a fake land trust, held an emergency meeting nobody was told about, and sold the parcel to themselves under the table. My grandfather built that cabin in 1948. I rebuilt it for my wife when the cancer took her piece by piece. That place was my therapy, my church, and now it was gone. I tried the appeal process. I filed every form, paid every fee. They told me to attend a hearing. When I got there, the room was empty. The woman at the desk didn't even look up. "That vote happened 2 weeks ago," she said. "But the letter says," she sighed, "that's just a formality notice." And then Catherine walked out of an office laughing into her phone. She hung up when she saw me. "Oh, Mr. Riker, you missed your chance," she said. "But I think you'll love what my cousin's planning for the space, a lovely boutique hotel." I stood there numb, realizing they hadn't just torn down wood and stone. They desecrated my wife's grave for profit. For days, I moved like a ghost around the house. I'd catch myself turning toward the window, expecting to see the glint of sunlight on the cabin roof. All I saw was mud. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like her footsteps. And that's when I remembered what she told me once after an HOA meeting years ago. Catherine had cornered her, threatened her. "Bullies don't stop until someone makes them," Sarah said. Back then, I'd told her to let it go. I didn't listen, and now the bully had won. That night, I picked up the phone and made 4 calls. My daughter, Maya, FBI. My son, Leo, ATF, Bomb Squad. My brother, Robert, retired Secret Service. My nephew, Kevin, DOJ, Cyber Unit. I told them Sunday dinner. My house. We hadn't all sat together since Sarah's funeral. The air was heavy quiet. When I finished telling them what happened, nobody spoke. Maya's jaw tightened. Leo's hands balled into fists. Robert leaned forward, voice low and steady. "She picked the wrong family," he said. "We started planning. We called it Operation Family Firebreak. I didn't even ask where the name came from. It just fit." A week later, the first violation notice arrived, $50 for excessive noise. I'd been hand-sawing reclaimed oak in my garage. A handsaw, not a chainsaw. 2 days later, a $100 fine for improper storage of materials. The stack of wood was behind my garage, invisible from the road. They were taunting me. I paid the fines in silence and installed trail cams along the property line. Then, one afternoon, my grandkids were playing in the backyard. I looked out the kitchen window and saw a man, golf shirt, clipboard camera, standing just inside my fence, filming them. I was outside before I even realized it. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. He stammered, "Community property inspection." He was photographing children. My hand went to the hammer on my belt. I took 1 step forward. He ran like a rabbit. That night, I checked the cameras. There he was again later, but this time a different man. The HOA's security chief, Randy Kincaid, kneeling by my generator slicing the fuel line. I sent the video to Leo. He didn't reply, but 3 days later a state environmental inspector showed up at the HOA office asking about unreported fuel spills. Funny coincidence. But every win felt small. The HOA started targeting my neighbors the Millers got foreclosed on over bogus fines. Then, Eli, the retired lineman who helped me build my fence, got slapped with a lawsuit for damaging community aesthetics. He came to my porch holding the papers with shaking hands. "They'll take everything I have," he said. That night I called Maya. "They're destroying people, Maya. This isn't about property lines anymore." "Dad," she said, "all calm professionalism, you need to stop pushing. We're building a case. There's evidence of money laundering and kickbacks. But if you make noise now, we lose them." I snapped. "This isn't a case file on your desk. This is your mother's grave." I slammed the phone down so hard the plastic cracked. I drove to the lake. The ground was scarred and barren, the air thick with the smell of diesel and rot. On the old oak tree that shaded our porch was a new sign. "No trespassing property of Lakeview, HOA." At the base of the tree, our bronze memorial plaque was still there, except someone had taken a tool and scratched Sarah's name off it. Deep gouges where her name used to be. That broke something in me. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad. I was empty. I turned to walk away, ready to give up, ready to lock my door and fade out quietly. Then headlights swept over the clearing. It was Eli. He got out, looked at the sign, then at me. "You still got that hammer?" he asked. We didn't tear their sign down. We planted our own steel post right beside it, closer to the water on land I knew was still mine. I placed a small black device inside it, a long-range mic my son had given me years ago. "Just in case," he'd said, and just like that, the quiet war began. For weeks I went through my routine like nothing had changed, fixing fences, cleaning tools, mowing the lawn. But every night, I'd sit in my study headphones on listening to that tiny mic by the lake. Mostly just wind and birds. Until one night, voices. Catherine Malloy, her cousin Donnie, talking about permits kickbacks that relief fund money. They were laughing about how easy it was to push through the hotel plan. Every word recorded. Every word uploaded to Kevin's encrypted server. The next week, Maya called her voice tight. "Dad, we confirmed it. The HOA never legally owned your land. The trust was fake." An hour later, Kevin called. I traced the notary stamp on the deed transfer. The notary doesn't exist, but Catherine's sister in Nevada does same signature. And then Robert called. I showed the file to a friend in federal real estate fraud. He's very interested. That was the moment I stopped feeling small. The next morning I shaved, put on the same suit I'd worn to Sarah's funeral, and drove to the county courthouse. I didn't file for an appeal. I filed for an emergency federal injunction under an old veteran land protection clause. My goal wasn't to get the cabin back, it was to freeze every cent in the HOA's accounts. 2 days later, a notice appeared on the community board. All HOA operations temporarily suspended pending federal review. Catherine lost it. She hired lawyers, called reporters, sent letters full of legal threats. Then she scheduled an emergency community meeting to defend herself. Perfect. The hall was packed. Every neighbor, every board member. Catherine strutted in like a queen returning to her throne. She tapped the mic. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "We've been the victims of malicious accusations by a certain resident, Mr. Riker." Her eyes found me in the front row. "He's jeopardized our property values and our community." I stood up. "Name's Tom Riker," I said. "I'd like to make a statement." She smirked. "You've got 30 seconds. I walked to the front and placed my phone on the podium. A few weeks ago, I said someone recorded a conversation near the lake. I hit play. Catherine's voice filled the hall. "Once we get rid of that old shack, the view will be perfect. Donnie, this place just needs a little spa retreat." The room gasped. Catherine jumped up, shouting, "That's taken out of context." I ignored her. "Here's the deed transfer your HOA used to claim my land," I said, projecting it onto the screen. "Notarized by a Cynthia Webb from Nevada. Only problem, she doesn't exist. But your sister does." Her lawyer's face drained of color. The crowd started whispering louder and louder. Then I clicked to the final image, an aerial photo from Leo's drone. It showed the protected wetlands at the far end of the lake and dumped right in the middle the debris from my cabin fireplace, stones and all. The crowd erupted. Shouts, chairs, scraping, people demanding answers. Catherine pounded her gavel, yelling for order. And that's when the doors opened. A man in a gray suit walked in, calm, carrying a folder. "Catherine Malloy," he said into the live microphone. "I'm Investigator David Chen's State Financial Crimes Division. You are being served." For a second, you could have heard a pin drop. Then the cheers began. Eli climbed onto a chair shouting, "We're done being afraid of you." Within a week, the feds charged Catherine, her cousin, and 2 board members with wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy, and violations of the Clean Water Act. She was out on bail, desperate. One night, my trail cam caught her breaking into my workshop with a crowbar. She thought she could destroy the evidence. I called 911 and watched the feed in silence as the deputies surrounded her. She came out screaming, clawing at them, accusing me of being the criminal. They took her down, cuffed her, and drove her away. The next morning, the paper headline said it all. HOA, President arrested in federal fraud sting. The cabin was gone. Sarah's ashes scattered into the dirt. But justice, real heavy, undeniable justice, had finally arrived. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fire or fists. Sometimes it just needs patience, evidence, and the right family.